Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to this week's Homebrew Wednesday video. This week we're going to be brewing the St Peter's Golden Ale. It makes 36 pints of beer. Obviously you can get more out of it, but it's going to be a bit thinner if you stretch it a little bit further. What you could do, I guess, is you could do it up to the normal bog standard 23 litres, but I would be more inclined to chuck 500 grams of malt in there or something. But we're going to be following the instructions because, as you may know, I've done this kit before and I had problems with it and it came out horrible. And Muntons very kindly, after a very long in-depth conversation with them, very kindly agreed to send me a replacement. So I'm going to be talking to you about what you should do when you're making a kit with regards to writing down batch numbers and things. Okay, it'll all make sense coming up soon. And I'm going to be replacing the kit yeast with the standard SO5. I'm going to rehydrate that in some warm water later on. Muntons may very well have a little bit of a whinge at me, because if it does turn out horrible and I've not used a kit yeast, they're less likely to help me, I guess. But I don't really want to be using this yeast, folks, to be honest with you. I've used this yeast before and it's not very good, in my opinion. That's just me. You don't have to agree with me, this is just my opinion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what comes in this box, and after that we'll just get on with it. Alright, see you in a bit. Right, so here we are then. The St Peter's Golden Ale comes with two cans there of malt extract. It comes with yeast, and it also comes with a hop enhancement system, and you add the desired amount before you chuck the yeast on the top. Simple as that, really. This can't be easier, folks. This one is just a really simple brew to chuck together. So as you can see, this is full up with water, and I've used Muntons sterilising fluid. You use 5 little caps for every full batch you're going to do. 23 litres, 5 gallons. As you can see, I've got a little siphon here, or a big siphon, and what I'm going to do is, in order to make sure that that gets sanitised properly as well, I'm going to use that to pump out some of this water into the bucket down there. That way I know that's going to get a good clean, as well as everything else in there. Now there is one other thing I want to talk to you about, and it's this here. See on the top of this, there's a little number on there, on this can. That's a batch number for that can. And on this other one there'll be another batch number. So now what you need to do when you're doing kit brews is to write those numbers down. Muntons suggested that to me, and they said if you get any problems, if you've got the batch numbers, then you know, they can look up to see if there's been any problems with those batches, and also they're more likely to send you out a refund if you can prove that, you know, you've actually been brewing one of these. And the only way to prove that you've been brewing it, of course, is either with a receipt or with the batch numbers. Alright, so just a little bit of a tip there. Right, so we've got a pan on the stove here with 3.5 litres of water in. Just bringing that up to the boil. Going to be chucking that into the fermenting vessel, and then we're going to be chucking the content of these 2 tins in. Here I've got another pan on the stove as well. I'm just going to be bringing that up. Whoops, just turned the hob off. Just going to be bringing that up to the boil. It doesn't have to be boiling this one, because we're only going to be using it to wash out these cans, but hot enough to make sure we get, you know, the junk that's left over at the bottom of the cans once we chuck them into the fermenting vessel. So as you can see, I've poured out the contents of the 2 cans into the fermenting vessel, and I've also chucked in the water that's been boiled on the stove. So we know this water is good, folks, it's been boiled. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to thin out this extract, because it really is a thick extract. in those tins. Thick as something, very thick indeed. And while I'm just letting that to settle for a second, look, I just want to make sure you can see. There's one can, there's the other can. I've got more out of one than the other, but that's all right, not to worry. I've got a fair amount out, so I'm just going to continue stirring this for a few minutes, and then what we'll do is we'll top it up with cold water. As you can see, folks, 31 degrees is this. It's a little bit too warm, but it is all frothy. I mean, it's lovely, frothed up there, and on the side here I've got it up to 20, nearly 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge of doom to make sure that the STC 1000 kicks in and gets those temperatures down before we chuck the hop powder in and the yeast. Right, so as you can see, on the side of the bucket here, I've taped in the probe from the STC 1000. That will make sure we get an accurate reading on the temperature. Also at the top there, where there's a little hole for a bung, for the moment I've taped that up so we don't get any nasties in there. Obviously I'm going to take that off once we've got the temperature right, and then I'll run a blowout tube all the way down here and into some sanitised water like I usually do, and it should be okay. At the moment though, 26 degrees, look, it's way too high. Okay, so what we've got here then is we've got about 4 fluid ounces I should say, of water. That's been boiled to make sure that it's sanitised, and we're going to use that once it's got down to room temperature to put our yeast in so we can rehydrate it. Right, I don't know if you can see that. Whoops, it's just gone off. However, it was 104 Fahrenheit, so this is good enough to put the yeast in. So as you can see, folks, I've sprinkled evenly the US-05 across the top of the water. We need to leave this for 15 minutes, and what will happen is the yeast will sink down and we'll get a nice little mixture up. After 15 minutes we'll get a sanitised spoon or something. I'll probably use the end of the thermometer, as I know that's sanitised, to give it a final stir, and then we chuck it into our brew. Hey, so we're at the end. That is the fermentation fridge of doom kicking off, keeping a nice temperature around about 20 degrees. You didn't see me put the hop powder in, did you? The little sachet of hop powder and maltodextrin that comes with it. I did record it, but the camera went funny on me, so sadly you didn't see me do that. I did rehydrate the yeast though, as you saw. Once I had that yeast in and hydrated for about 15 minutes, I got the temperature back up to around about the same temperature as the wort by putting in warm water. You could have taken some of the wort out, but then I'm not a massive fan of opening up the fermenting vessel loads of times, because the more you open up that fermenting vessel, the more likely you are to get infections and things. And as I want to make sure this one works out, I didn't do it, so I just used water, and that'll be absolutely fine. It's bubbling, folks, it's fermenting, so the blowout tube is in there and it's boom. So we know it's working, which is a good thing. However, who knows how it's going to turn out. Anyway, we're at the end, so you know what happens when we get to the end of a brew. We pour ourselves one, because that's the way we roll, folks. That's the way we blimmin' well roll. This is my Cascade Ale, very nice, lovely beer. So hopefully you have a good week, folks. Hope you found that interesting. A couple of people have been asking me about yeast, so I'm just quickly going to talk about that before I go. Why do I tend to throw away the kit yeast a lot, as I have done in this case? There are a number of reasons for that. One is I believe the kit yeast is inferior to the premium yeast. Two, if you're using a lot of additions like grains and malt extracts and that kind of stuff, and putting more sugars in there, 6 grams of yeast is going to struggle to eat up all of those lovely sugars and convert them to alcohol. So that's another reason not to use the kit yeast. Finally, you get a better product at the end of it, folks. It tastes better, it looks better, you get an overall better quality product, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? At the end of the day, you get what you pay for, folks. So it's definitely worth swapping out the yeasts. If you want to give it a go and you haven't done it before, I suggest you do, because it does make a difference, folks. It really does. You're less likely to get issues with stalled fermentations as well. That's just my experience. Anyway, cheers to you, folks. Ta-da! See you on the next one. Ta-da!